Welcome again to IMC Live, the interactive webinar series hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. We are here to help you connect with your peers, sharpen your skills, and drive results for your business. Peyton, Marketing Director at Gorillas 76, the industrial marketing agency, and I'm one of your hosts today. Before we jump into the conversation, I would be remiss if I did not let you know about the go-to gathering for industrial marketers that is happening March 3rd through 5th in 2026. It is the Industrial Marketing Summit, and it's on for its third year. If you are a marketer working in manufacturing, engineering, or the industrial sectors, this conference was quite literally designed and made just for you. It was built by Gorilla 76, so a lot of the crew here and our partners at True Marketing. And IMS delivers strategic insight, hands-on learning, and a true community. So whether you're a team of one, like many of us are, or you're leading a scaled marketing department, you are going to be ready to walk away smarter, ready to lead your team better and drive more impact for your business. So more things to come there, but just know early bird tickets are on sale right now. There's 3 in-depth workshops that are going to be included in the all access pass. So if you want to check that out, go to industrialmarketingsummit.com and learn a little bit more. All right. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about more fun things like Industrial Marketing Summit. We're going to be talking about just generally having fun in our jobs and why it's more than just a nice to have thing. When energy is high, I've definitely felt this throughout like just even this week, conversations I've had with my team here. When the energy is higher, people are more engaged, they're more positive, and the work just tends to be better. So we're asking, how do you bring energy to the work, especially when it's repetitive, like marketing can be? You find even this webinar we were just talking before we hit record about it being on, this is the 101st episode. So we've been doing this for a while. So how do we keep it going when there's some monotony in what we've got going on? So to help us dig in today, I'm joined by some of the creative forces on the Gorilla team, Randall, Jenny, and James. So you may know them from some previous IMC Lives. It's probably been a while, especially since we've seen Jenny. So say hi, everyone.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. So I think let's just go ahead and jump right into the conversation. I kind of outlined it in the beginning, but there's a true case for having fun in your work. And the whole reason Alan and I wanted to talk to the 3 of y'all is we've worked with you and we've had fun with you. So I'm kind of curious just at the, outset, why you think that fun matters at work.
Well, I guess I'll go first. I think it's incredibly important to being creative and being able to think on your toes and think sharply. I don't know about anyone else, but for me personally, if I am not in a good mood or I'm feeling frustrated, it's really hard to I don't know, come up with a good solution. It's like getting enough sleep and getting enough exercise is good for your brain and your ability to think. And I think being happy is just as important. It's all kind of intertangled with one another. So being healthy, being happy, and having fun is important to doing a good job.
Yeah, I was looking into this a little bit more too, and because I was like, well, I feel this in my bones, but is this actually true? Is it actually, does it result in better outcomes? And there was so many scientific studies about this that have said exactly that. Oxford University even said in one of their studies that happier workers were roughly 13% more productive, especially if they're in a customer facing role. I just thought that was kind of interesting. They've done a lot of studies on this, no surprise.
Yeah, I mean,
all the businesses out there trying to get every last drop out of us.
it carries over even outside of the client facing or outside facing role. I've got this book, The Strategy of Desire from 1960, that lines up a lot with this book, Alchemy, from 2019 by Rory Sutherland of the Ogilvy Agency. But talking about even how like people that create advertising or scientists that create hypotheses need to be highly creative to do it effectively. And it's hard to be creative if you're having a crappy time. Um, so yeah, Jenny, what are your thoughts about how you can add excitement to tasks and try to make more things fun, even if it might not be on paper or something that would be fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think my philosophy when it comes to this is just like, you know, I mean, I also just try to make it fun for myself. I'm not like entirely sure that I can cater to everyone, but I can certainly cater to me. And if I find it fun, maybe other people will as well. Um, I don't know. I think that specifically at Gorilla, we also and like this is obviously not like a pitch to just force um scheduled fun on people, but we also feel that as a company, if everyone is really, really um crammed with work, or just like we're feeling like a crunch when it comes to delivering work and stuff, we can definitely feel it within the company. Like things go quiet, and then we know like, oh, there's something that's going on, and those are moments where you know, we'll step in and kind of be like, oh no, let's let's lighten the mood. Let's figure out what's going on. So you kind of have to keep an eye out for those like early warning signs. Um, and we also like, John and Joe are our founders. They have like, I guess, these like overall scores of like employees and how they feel at work. And I think that those are also not necessarily like, maybe those are like long-term early warning signs for them, just as like a thing to keep track of.
Yeah, Gorilla, just as an agency, we track an ENPS score. So like you would like a customer satisfaction. There's like a employee satisfaction too. But I know that's kind of from like a leadership level, you might be interested in like seeing some of that. And John Franco has a whole podcast on topics like that. The manufacturing employer, if you want to drill into it specifically or like learn more about HR, or point maybe your HR team or your leadership team in that direction. But I totally agree with what you're saying, Jenny, about like you have control over yourself, and like you can kind of like make the environment fun for you. And I think like you've done that a lot here too, at Gorilla, and you've kind of taken that ethos. We were just chatting before everyone joined in about like right now how like AI is kind of fun. And there's probably like a window that's closing on that being fun as we make it more productive. But Jenny's definitely, so she's a designer here, if that wasn't made clear already. And I think there's probably Randall too, design background, but there's probably limitations on what you guys think AI is good for in design, but it's definitely good for some laughs.
It is.
And
But
Jenny's been pulling that into some internal, um, stand-ups and decks that we have just for the sake of chuckle. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So we have these standing meetings every month where we basically talk about how how the company's doing, like where are we going in terms of like projection? Do we have any celebrations? Do we have um, you know, I guess like employees that are yeah, like maybe they have something that they want to share, and we break it out into like portfolio sharing and also department sharing. And you know there was a structure to them at some point, and recently, um, we've been I've been tasked with, I guess, like making them more fun. And so my here, I'll try to share my screen. My solution to this was I was suggested this lovely little presentation tool called Mentimeter, if anyone has ever heard of it. It's more of like an interactive um, presentation, basically. And you can make these slides that have different like interactive tools. So here, this was the June one. I did like a Sharks edition. We've done a couple of different variations too. Um, but I kind of just try to throw things in there, you know? We do a little agenda. Um, and I just try to find and pull like the silliest images that are based on the theme. Um, this is the profile picture I generated for our other designer TJ who's not here, but he, for reference, he used to be a chef and he's also a volunteer fireman. And so this was just something that I pulled for him and now it's his profile picture. Um, but yeah, like there are fun interactive ones where you can if you present it, here I'll show you, like you can literally cast your vote on, you know, which shark would you pet? You know, I don't know. I think this sort of thing is fun and you get to see like what people are choosing and you know, baseline it makes people interact with your content and like keep them awake, I guess.
Yeah, engaged. I mean, I think like the first time we did this, so this was an internal like state of Gorilla, like all hands meeting. And we used to just start those meetings and everyone would like kind of just sit there on Zoom. There might be like a branded PowerPoint deck. And there's a place for those things still. But I think like this is just one example of like, okay, how can we surprise and delight a little bit and get people to stay engaged because these presentations are very important to making sure everyone's on the same page and aligned on our goals for the quarter or the next month or whatever we're working towards. And like just this little shift which is quite silly. And you might feel at times like, okay, we're going to take 3 minutes to vote on which shark we're going to pet. Like, do we need to really spend our time doing that? It's like, well, there's a give and a take, right? Like there's some value in like taking like a almost like a mental break and getting back to a point where like your brain's just working in a completely different way. And now you can like on the next slide, you're just that much more like bought in, if that makes any sense. That's at least what I've been feeling from like this little shift.
I'm glad. I mean, I've at first it felt kind of silly. But then people would message me on the side and be like, actually, that was really fun. And that made me feel more confident to just go even harder, you know?
More unhinged.
More
Yeah, we'll
unhinged.
have to send some of the examples of some of these shots that Jenny's pulled together from
Yeah.
the presentations.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I think what makes it so fun is you don't know what to expect. And that's also kind of part of the fun of live collaborating with you, Jenny, is that when we're working on ads together, you'll be pulling stuff, and moving stuff around, and we'll be making random ideas. Some of them are dumb, some of them are good, but the dumb ones tend to lead to the good ones. And that's one of my favorite parts of working on creative ads and stuff like that. Now, James, you have a lot of thoughts on, the importance of person-to-person collaboration like that. But it feels like that makes a big difference in how much you actually enjoy the deliverable you're providing.
Yeah, I do think that there's something special about engaging in any kind of activity that produces anything that could be unexpected. And it's really, really hard to do that by yourself. Like it takes a lot of it is really hard work to produce a space for yourself where you can produce things that you have not expected from yourself. And like some people go through a lot of that training, and some people make that their life. And it's likely not, if you have a marketing job in industrial, you likely don't have that kind of time at work to like dedicate yourself in that way. The cheat code to producing this kind of like these unexpected moments is to engage other people and to let them work with you without restricting them. And there's a way that work can become really like straight line iterative, where, okay, we have these campaigns, we launched them, we got this result. These are the ones that worked. These are the ones that didn't work. We're gradually building this like library of ideas about what works and doesn't. And suddenly, like 6 months later, you find yourself in this place where you haven't surprised anyone in 6 months. And it's really easy to create that moment again if you kind of get rid of all of the rules that you've built to make work easy, and you bring in other people and you allow it to be difficult just for 2 or 3 hours. And it is really difficult for the first 30 minutes of any sort of like touch point like that, where you're just like, hey, we have no ideas to start with. We have almost no constraints. Maybe we've chosen 1 or 2 constraints to work with. Like, it's slow, and it can be awkward, especially if you don't work with someone a lot. And then there's like a moment like 2/3 of the way through whatever like touch point you've created with someone, where you're actually riffing just like you would with a friend, and the way that like your friends surprise you with the way they rebound off of the things that you say is suddenly reproduced by this person that you work with, who you might not have ever been in a situation like this with before. And it's not something that's hard to set up in any sort of technical way. It's just hard to convince people sometimes that you don't always, interact with in a loose manner, that it actually is worth their time. There's a certain mindset. But there's nothing hard about sitting next to an engineer for 45 minutes, just shooting the shit about something with like a very loose plan. And it can be incredibly valuable in ways that no one knows how to expect, going into that conversation. I think those are like, if I think about the most fun things that have ever happened at my job, they're almost all some version of that. And they've almost all been incredibly productive or meaningful to my work output.
Yeah, and they're so hard to make time for. Like if you're not doing them regularly, or if you haven't done them in a while, like you said, it's just like you feel like this like almost like imposter syndrome with like even just putting something on the calendar. But I think like if we're kind of breaking this into steps, it's like that step 1, like you have to create the opportunity for that collaboration, and like look again for opportunities. So like what James is saying, and an example of even working with James recently on a big like campaign blueprint sort of project. Like, what are we going to run demand gen for a brand new client that we've never worked with? And like, what do we want to talk about? And how do we want to talk about it? Like, what are the different angles and all of these different things? Like that could have just been a couple paragraphs on a Word doc that got sent out, and it's just a brief. And it's like, all right, get going. Just like, keep taking water from the same well that's eventually going to dry out. Or we could have a collaborative like kickoff meeting. And that first 30 minutes, like James said, can be awkward, and like you're really pushing and pulling and trying to get something going. But the last 60 minutes of a 90-minute like session can create all of this like just newness. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And
you don't need to use it all. There's stuff in that brainstorm document that like I think maybe I don't think it could get us fired from working with the client, but like stuff that is like absolutely like out of bounds. But you don't like you don't produce, like if you show up in a with a mindset that there are like a lot of boundaries in which you can work in, like you reduce people's ability to go near the edge in any kind of way. And like we probably produced, because I made a document after that, like trying to collect everything in a single sheet so that like visually so that people could see everything. And there were probably like 95 campaign ideas in that document. And probably 40 of them are completely unusable. Like, but we've never spent so little time to generate 50 usable ideas.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
you know,
not a brainstorm.
it's never been that productive.
Yeah.
So there is something like real to be said about the time you spend on things that you will never use.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's not a brainstorm if you're killing ideas in the brainstorm. Like, if you call a brainstorm and people start shooting down one of those ideas, you're not going to get as much. It needs to be open season. Doesn't matter how insane the idea is, because you can always walk an insane idea back to something that's achievable. And that way you just generate a lot of ideas, and maybe someday that insane idea might be possible. And it also just makes people more comfortable to like speak up, because there's all different kinds of personality types who like maybe really quiet and they might have the best idea in the room. They're just afraid to say it, because they're fearful of being like shot down or something. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, no bad ideas.
Yeah. And we've talked about how hard some of these can be, which doesn't sound very fun. So I know you design kids have some cool tools to make this collaboration more fun. Jenny, I think you had them pulled up for a second there. The Fig
Yeah.
Jam
And
Hero.
while Jenny's pulling that up, so because she did show like a little glimpse. I mean, I think so. It's like you got to make the decision just to kind of put a framework around this conversation a little bit more. Like, you got to make a decision to like inject that collaboration. So like step one, like where can you insert more relationship building moments, more like, just opportunities to discuss something with other people. You might have a challenge where like you're a distributed team. Gorilla's very remote, so like we use some like digital tools. But you also might have a conference room that you can just get into for the day. Or maybe you need to think even bigger than that. Um, so like I'd say step two is like, okay, so you want to inject the collaboration. Then step two, like, okay, now we need to facilitate that collaboration in some way. And so that's where, tools like this can start to come in handy.
Yeah. I mean, and just this is like the Fig Jam one. And Randall, please feel free to hop in and add on things. But something that we really like to use, just because we also use Figma as a design software in general, it is really lovely that they come out with like interesting tools, not only for designers to use, but really anyone to use. And we really have been enjoying them. FigJam is one of them. I don't know if anyone else has used like Miro, but just like a collaborative workspace that really anyone can use if they have a Figma account. Like a free one is fine. Or you actually, Randall, you can kind of just like
Yeah.
hop on like for 24 hours, right?
Yeah, you can open it up for 24 hours, and if you just want, you can get Fig Jam and the ability to make like slides for $5 a month or $3 a month if you pay annually per seat. But all you need is one person to really own it, and you can open it up for 24 hours. It's like super low investment. You can try it for free, and it's got templates for every kind of like collaborative meeting you would want to have. It's got fun tools for voting. And for us, something like that is really important because before 2020, we weren't like a fully remote team. And we were able to just get in a room and do these kind of collaborative sessions and, put a bunch of notes up on a whiteboard and like just have it be very open-ended and loose, which is really important, but it's even harder to do when we're remote. And so we've put a lot of thought into how we can like foster our culture and collaboration and creativity, because it is a lot more difficult to do when you're not all in the same place. And um, we really like this tool, at least as a design team, and I think we've had pretty good success running collaborative sessions with it. But there's other tools out there too if this isn't your thing.
Yeah, just a digital whiteboard of some sort, like
Yeah.
somewhere that like you think about like what the best brainstorms include, and most of them I would say probably include sticky notes. And so like this is a way that you can kind of start to just put everything out there so you can see it, and then maybe start to organize your thoughts around it.
Yeah. And there's like a lot of tools that you can have. Obviously, we have like mind maps, sticky notes that you can add anywhere. And so this kind of thing we have been using internally as like it within our department, and we have our own just creative department fig jam where we meet up and we bring issues to the table. We have like an inspo board. We have just like little things to kind of make um I don't know, make things more, I mean, I hate to use the word fun, but just like, I don't know, visually interesting.
So there's one feature on this that I want to like make sure to call out too, not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but there's a timer up at the top, and that is something that I think can like give just like a lot of structure and like forward momentum through any of these. So something that James, I don't even know what you called it, the way you facilitated the one brainstorm, but it was basically a bunch of 5-minute timers, and then we passed it around.
The timer is super nice. It's a way of like, it's like if it's the only constraint is time, that's like great for volume of ideas. So like if you're running a session based on like we're generating just like everything we could possibly generate, and we have another session where we're gonna like actually talk about executing, like use timers. Everyone think for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna hand off our ideas to the next person, like and then everyone think for another 5 minutes. It's like if that's the only constraint that you're putting on people's thoughts, like you will deliver so much volume of workable material that you won't be able to execute even 15% of it just given your own like limitations. But it gives you, if you spend an hour in, what is it, 30, I guess, 5-minute sessions of thinking, like you'll be really surprised how generative even a team of 3 can be.
Yeah, for sure. And like something my professors would always say is like, it takes a lot more time to sit there and come up with good ideas as opposed to sitting there and coming up with a bunch of bad ideas and then parsing through them to find good ones. But I mean, you just have to start somewhere, and it doesn't have to be good. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jenny. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go for it.
I was just I'm cutting you off to talk about constraints. So I was just thinking like a little bit more about like, we talked about how like time is often one of the biggest constraints. I think like the biggest thing you can do here to like, you want to get like your subject matter experts in a room or something is, just look at what you've got on your roadmap of what you're trying to accomplish, and schedule. The brainstorm doesn't have to happen tomorrow. This can be something that you are planning for 3 weeks from now, a month from now. Like, just think like, okay, I know that I'm trying to promote this trade show, and I know I want to promote it differently. Here are the folks that are going to go to the show. These are things that we want to talk about, different ways we can engage our customers at that event. Maybe we want to talk about things that we could do differently at our booth. Well, you know, that trade show is coming up again, and it's going to be in November. Well, let's go ahead and discuss it, and have kind of like that free form conversation where there's no bad ideas, and you just can kind of plan ahead that way. Yeah. I know we were talking about like a Fig Jam being a nice place to do this, or conference rooms if you have that. But I also think like the other piece of this is that sometimes when you, the reason why I've liked Fig Jam, and the reason why you'll often find me working at coffee shops, like personally, is because like my brain, if I'm doing something that is requires a little bit more creativity, or kind of like a distraction-free zone, I find a lot of value in like switching up that environment and like almost like surprising people with a new atmosphere completely. I'd be curious, like if anyone else on our little panel here has any learnings that you could share about ways that you've switched up the
I think
place.
this isn't about me switching up place, but this is like a dark arts tactic from like publishing work and needing to get basically an editor to be bought into my idea, like so that they'll pay me so that I can get paid this week to like by writing about it. And like if there's someone like in your organization who's usually like the like validator of something, like and like approval person, that can be, sometimes these people are like difficult to get fun things passed, and it's like part of their job to be like to make sure that things are consistent or etc., whatever word that they would like to use. That is a person that you should be engaging collaboratively to produce something fun. The trick to doing that is to not do it in their office. Like they will need a change of scenery in order to change their own personal working context, because you're kind of asking them to code switch in a big way when you're asking someone who usually is a part of an approval and review process to be a part of a generative process. And it's incredibly effective to bring them into the room where the generative work happens, and work with them there rather than bringing yourself to them, because it's easier to get them to agree if they don't have to move. Like there's actually a really big difference between those two things in my personal experience. And like absolutely do not sleep on how that can impact the way other people show up for something like this, in addition to yourself.
So from a remote work context, does that mean asking them to go to a coffee shop instead of their home?
Yeah, I wonder, I guess I'm almost assuming that a lot of this audience is not remote, and does work in an office. But I think remote is probably like maybe finding a time when they usually don't have meetings. You know, like when's a time when they usually do deep work and inconvenience them in some way, and suffer through that first 10 minutes of it being uncomfortable. But this is the time that they, you know, that they get things done and they are generative, and not the time when they review things and sort through emails and etc. Like that's part of what like the commitment is like showing up in that way, and you need to be able to help the other people in the group do that.
I think there can be like, it makes me think of the term like fundatory, and like how, you know, like there's like mandatory fun can backfire. Like you can get like build, I don't know, like resentment too. So like I do think like to what you're saying, James, is like you have to get buy-in somehow, and you have to like encourage people to like, I don't know, want to be there. And like I've done that personally by saying like, okay, like you know, one, I'm going to schedule this further out in advance so people like can like wrap their brains around the fact that they're going to have to be social and like share some ideas. And then two, like just saying like, hey, you know, like go to coffee, or we're going to do this over the lunch hour, and everybody like put your DoorDash order in, and like that's going to be covered. Or like we are ordering lunch in and we're getting it from like this like kind of like bougie place instead of just like McDonald's or Panera or something. It's like whatever, just like kind of like upping the ante and getting people a little bit excited. If they're not excited for the conversation, they might be excited for the food. We're all in marketing here. We know the power of like food at an event. And you can do that for like these internal creative brainstorms as well. Yeah.
A good lunch works wonders.
Mm-hmm. I also did want to say, like, you know, like in terms of like shaking up the environment, something that actually Brendan, who's on this call, and I just did earlier this week. You didn't even know you were having fun with me, Brendan. Everyone's been in the chat talking about like, okay, well, how are we using AI? We've talked about like, okay, we're generating images of sharks. Great. Like that's one way to do it. But like, how are you creatively using AI? Brendan and I were trying to work on, you know, the structure of a presentation, and we literally pulled up different chat tools, so Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and we like because we were getting stuck, and we were just like, okay, why do we keep spinning our wheels here? Let's just put this question into these different tools and see how they all respond. And we did that on a screen share. So like we could both see like the chat and what it was saying. And then we like brainstormed with it together for a little while. And that made our 2-person brainstorm into this almost like, I don't know how many people you count if you're talking to Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini at the same time. Like that's a lot of people in the room. A lot of it's, I guess, in the room, but that was one way that we've used it. I know other folks have dropped some things in the chat. I welcome folks to unmute and chime in if there's anything specific that you've liked with AI or other tools.
Just keep it fun.
Easy.
There's got to be someone out there.
Or folks
writers
just kind
at
of
Gorilla
like,
are creative in how they treat their AI. Like,
what's your question again, James?
oh, I said, like, I feel like almost to answer yours, like in terms of like producing some strangeness in interaction with AI, I feel like the writers at Gorilla produce that by treating their AI in strange ways to cause it to respond in ways that are like surprising. You know, some writers are like exceptionally rude to it, and then see what it produces, and others are exceptionally like that type of overkind person, like insufferably kind and benevolent, like communication, and see what it produces, and it gives you almost like another layer of thinking to like interact with when you're kind of using it as a collaborative partner. Yeah, other than of course like what Joel is mentioning in the chat. Some folks just aren't interested, I don't think, in surviving the uprising, Joel. But
yeah, I think when it comes to AI, just to like chime in here a little bit more, I would not call myself an early adopter of these tools, but I have become an adopter really like intentionally so in the past, 8 weeks, specifically, where I've been like very intentional about like how I'm using it. Am I asking the question like, okay, I need to get this done. How could AI help me do it? And not to totally take this conversation like off the rails in that direction, but I think this contributes to like, okay, I need to have fun at work. I need new ideas. Like, why do we want to have fun at work? Is because like marketing is challenging. It's a creative muscle that needs to be worked day in and day out. You're creating content, you're making graphics, you're trying to come up with a new way to say the same thing, or you're trying to like deal with I guess the dread of saying the same thing for like the 50th time this week or something. And I think that I've just been like asking myself, like, okay, I need to do this. Well, how could I use AI to help me do this instead? And then like a lot of these tools, these LLMs, like they're large language models. So they talk like humans. So just remember that like if you can have a conversation like we're having right here, you can work with those tools. Like the barrier is low to get in there and just start having it's a chat, just like what we're doing in the Zoom chat that you can't see if you're listening to this. But like if you're like you could ask the same exact questions that you're putting in that. Keep coming to these, but like you could ask ChatGPT or you could ask Claude or Gemini, whatever, and see what it shares with you. So yeah, I think there's a lot more.
I'll just say, give my last note on AI. I will say, like we were talking about this before, AI is probably really fun right now for a lot of people, and it's super new. It's like important to be really careful about replacing human collaboration with digital collaboration. And it's an incredibly nice thing for people who work alone. And probably less of y'all work alone than, you know, the LinkedIn sphere. And there's plenty of human beings who would be far more creative and fun collaborators in the long run. And neglecting building those relationships like will like inhibit your ability to have fun at work. That's just like, it's the thing that worries me about the tool. And it's worth just thinking about that when you use it in that way. Like, have you removed a human collaborator from your work life? Or have you produced where there was nothing, a nice digital collaborator? They're two very different things.
Yeah, like Karen May mentioned in the chat that some of their sales team are using it to make what she's calling used car sale pitches, which are not very good. And I said, like, from a strategic process, like just the ability to take in so much information and create good strategy docs, I've seen it work really well. But when it comes to creative advertising and the stuff that tends to be the most fun to actually do with people, it is a cliche generator. And sometimes that cliche can be a good starting point, but yeah, you still have a lot better results and a lot more fun when you're bouncing those things around with a person to really make something sing.
Keep humans involved. That's the big takeaway from today. Use the tools, but layer them in to like other conversations, and remember that at the end of the day, you know, I think that the big way that you know, we propagate fun in our work is to build relationships with each other, like James was saying at the very beginning. And so it's like, you know, you might not be the expert in everything that your company is doing, fuel pumps or generators or, you know, power systems of some kind, like that's okay. But, you know, create the environment where you can learn from those people, where you can get the juices flowing with them. And then, you know, just take that no bad ideas mindset and just see what you can come up with. You might throw out 50% of what you come up with, but you know, the other 50% could generate some really interesting content for the future. So really appreciate everyone hopping on today. I like just hanging with y'all. This has been a really fun outlet for us here at Gorilla. So we appreciate everyone jumping on and talking with us today. Jenny, Randall, James, thanks so much for joining the show. And if folks want to hear more from you, where should they do that? I don't feel like I see the three of you hanging out on LinkedIn very much.
No, I mean, I'm there, but I don't post anything. I'm getting too old for social media.
I do respond to direct messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's I do use the tool for that. So anyone can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I just don't post and interact with the feed. But I use it to network in messages.
Same.
I feel like once in a blue moon I open it up and then immediately regret it. But like, I mean, if I was on there and posting, could you imagine like the awful things I would post? I feel like everyone would leave, you know? So,
No, I highly disagree, but whatever.
okay.
Well, if you want to talk to Jenny, just go ahead and reach out to me. I'll get you connected,
That's true.
everybody.
That's true.
And yeah, our next episode is going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to have Gorilla co-founder Joe Sullivan on the stage, and we're going to be talking about results and talking with your leadership team about the impact of your marketing program and all of that. So really excited to jump into some metrics and great coaching with Joe. Between now and then, if you want to keep the conversation going with folks, we definitely have the discussion boards on Circle. So industrialmarketingcollective.com if you want to learn more, or reach out to any Gorilla and we can get you connected. And then I'll just, last but not least, another plug for Industrial Marketing Summit. It was a great time to see everyone there. Would love to see folks there again in 2026. So industrialmarketingsummit.com. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. We'll catch up with you soon.